Hello, students. Welcome to poem number 5, A Legend of the Northland, written by Phoebe Cary. This poem narrates the legend of an old lady who angered Saint Peter because of her greed. But before going into the poem, let us learn something more about Phoebe Cary. She was an American poetess born on the 4th of September 1824 in Ohio, United States, and she is the younger sister of poetess Alice Carey. The sisters co published poems in 1849 and then went on to publish volumes of their own. After their deaths in 1871, joint anthologies of the sisters' unpublished poems were also compiled. But before reciting the poem, let us have a look at what this poem is all about. This poem is a ballad, a legend of the Northland. It is a ballad. Now, what is a ballad? A ballad is a poem narrating a story in short stanzas. A ballad is such kind of a poem which tells a story in short stanzas or verses in which the poem, all the stanzas comprise or have 4 lines each. In total, there are 16 stanzas in this poem, and these stanzas narrate a story. They are part of the folk culture or popular culture and are passed on orally from one generation to another. Folk culture is a story of any particular area and is known as a ballad. Folk culture comprises of traditional stories which are passed on from one generation to another. This story is of the Northland area, the area which is near the North Pole. The exact place is not specified, but Northland means generally the area in the northernmost part of the earth, near the North Pole. Legend means a historical story, one which is very old and has been passed on from generation to generation. Now, let us read the verses one by one and then listen to the explanation. Away, away, in the Northland, where the hours of the day are few, and the nights are so long in winter that they cannot sleep them through. Now, in the region around the North Pole, the duration of the day is very short because of the position of the sun's rays. They are slanting and so they reach for a very less time, for a very short period of time. So, when this area is experiencing winter, the duration of night is extremely long and the daytime hours are very less. In line 4, they refers to the people who live in that region. The poet says that the duration of the night is so long that people cannot sleep through them. If they go to bed and take a few hours sleep, then they awake, but it is still night time. He wants to emphasize the fact that the duration of the night is very long. Where they harness the swift reindeer to the sledges when it snows, and the children look like bears' cubs in their funny, furry clothes. Now, sledges are vehicles on runners for conveying loads or passengers over snow or ice, which are pulled by draught animals. And to harness means to tie reindeers with a rope to a sledge so that it can be used for transportation. Swift is something that is extremely fast. Now, the explanation. The Northland region experiences severe cold conditions. It is a snowy area. The reindeer is an animal which is found in this polar region. People tie their reindeers to sledges and then the reindeers pull the sledges. She adds that the children look like young ones of a bear because they wear funny looking clothes made of fur, which is like the furry skin of a bear. Now the next stanza. They tell them a curious story. I don't believe 'tis true, and yet you may learn a lesson if I tell the tale to you. Now, curious means very strange. In line 1 in stanza 3, they refers to the parents or elders, and them refers to the children or the younger generation. The elders of the Northland region tell a strange and interesting story to the younger generation. The poet says that he doesn't think she says that she doesn't think the story is true, But if she tells the story to the reader, maybe the reader could learn a lesson from it. So, this poem gives a very important message. This story gives a very important message. Now, the next verse. Once, when the good Saint Peter lived in the world below and walked about it preaching, just as he did, you know. Now, Saint Peter is a disciple, an apostle of Christ, Jesus Christ. A disciple is a shishya, somebody who, listens to the teachings of his master and goes around preaching that. And preaching is to give it's a pravachan, you give a religious talk. The story is about Saint Peter when he used to live in the world and went around giving religious talks to people, just like all saints do. Then an incident happened. And what is that incident? Let us see in stanza 5. He came to the door of a cottage in traveling round the earth, where a little woman was making cakes and baking them on the hearth. Now, here, as we can see, hearth is a fireplace where you do cooking. It's like a hollow in the ground, and where you put either coal or firewood, and then you cook your food. So when Saint Peter was moving round the world giving religious teaching to the people, he reached the door of a cottage where a small woman, a short woman, was making cakes. She was baking those cakes in the fireplace. Now, the next stanza. And being faint from fasting, with fasting, for the day was almost done, he asked her from her store of cakes to give him a single one. Now, faint means to be very weak and to be very extremely hungry. As Saint Peter had not eaten anything the entire day, the whole day, he was very hungry and was feeling weak. So he went to this woman who was baking cakes, and he asked just for one cake out of the many cakes that she had baked. So let us continue. So she made a very little cake, but as it baking lay, she looked at it and thought it seemed too large to give away. So the woman was very selfish. She didn't give the cake from the store of cakes that she had, of the cakes that she had baked. Instead, she started making a very small cake for Saint Peter, as she didn't want to share her things. But when she put the cake in order to bake, she looked at it and thought that this cake was still too big to be given to someone else. Then the next verse. Therefore, she needed another, and still a smaller one, but it looked when she turned it over as large as the first had done. The little need is to make dough. Your mummy makes chapatis, right? So from the flour, she put the she put the flour and then kneaded the cake dough in. So the little miserly woman thought that the cake was still too big to be given away, and so she started making another smaller one. But when she looked at that cake too, she felt again that this is too big, just as the previous one, and again she was not ready to give even this smaller cake to Saint Peter. So now we go to the next stanza, stanza 9. Then she took a tiny scrap of dough and rolled it flat and baked it thin as a wafer, but she couldn't part with that. Now, scrap is a very small amount. She took a very tiny size of dough and rolled it flat like a khakra and baked it as thin as a wafer. That means as thin. Now, have you ever seen cakes which are thin? Like they are quite nice and fluffy, right? Even a pizza, a margarita would be not as thin as the cake that she baked. So, the third time she took a very small amount of dough and rolled it. The poet says that she rolled and rolled to lay emphasis on the fact that she rolled the dough and make it very thin like a wafer, like the chips that you eat, and she baked it. But she was so greedy that she couldn't even give that thin piece of bread to the cake. For she said, my cakes that seem too small when I eat of them myself, and yet too large to give away. So she put them on the shelf. Now the woman thought to herself that when she ate the cake, she felt they were very small. But when it came to giving them away to someone, she felt, no, they are way too big. I just cannot give them to anyone. So she put all the cakes on the shelf of her kitchen and didn't give even a single one to Saint Peter. Then good Saint Peter grew angry, for he was hungry and faint, and surely such a woman was enough to provoke a saint. Now, provoke is to cause someone to get angry. So, Saint Peter, now, even though he was a saint, and here the poet says, good Saint Peter, not only was he a saint, he was also very good natured. So, she says that he became angry. That means he lost his patience. He was very hungry. He was feeling weak. And this selfish woman was not ready to give him even one single cake. So, this kind of behavior of this greedy woman angered the saint. Stanza 12. And he said, you are far too selfish to dwell in a human form, to have both food and shelter and a fire to keep you warm. So, the meaning of the word dwell is to live. And so, because St. Peter came to this conclusion that this woman was way too greedy to be a human being, and so he cursed the woman and said that she was very selfish. She didn't deserve to live like a human being. He added that God had given her food and shelter and fire, and yet she had become so selfish. In spite of the resources that she had, she didn't want to share them with anyone. So, let's go to the next stanza. Now you shall build as the birds do, and shall get your scanty food by boring and boring and boring all day in the hard, dry wood. So, now scanty means extremely little, very, very little, and boring is to make a hole, like to drill a hole in something with a tool or by digging. So, now this is what Saint Peter cursed her, saying. Saint Peter cursed the woman that hence she would become a bird because she didn't deserve the human form. She would become a bird and just like other birds build their houses by boring, that means by drilling into the wood and collecting very little food by working hard the entire day. In a similar manner, she would also work hard in the dry wood all day long and get little food just to live, just to get by, and to make a small place for herself to live in. So let's go to the next verse. Then up she went. Now, then up she went through the chimney, never speaking a word, and out of the top flew a woodpecker, for she was changed to a bird. Now, as soon as Saint Peter cursed the woman, she didn't get a chance to speak for herself or, ask him to change his mind, because at that very moment she flew up through the roof, through the chimney, and flew out in the form of a bird. So Saint Peter's curse had converted this woman into a bird. Now the stanza 15. She had a scarlet cap on her head, and that was left the same, but all the rest of her clothes were burned, black as a coal in the flame. So scarlet is a very brilliant red color. When the woman turned into a bird at that time, she was wearing a red colored cap on her head, and this cap was there on the bird's head too. So that was all the resemblance that she had to her former human, form. This cap was there, and the woman's remaining clothes had burned and turned black in color, just like coal. So the last stanza, and every country schoolboy has seen her in the wood, where she lives in the trees till this very day, boring and boring for food. So country is like in India you would call country the village, but village side, no? But there, according to English literature, you have country means belonging to the countryside, that is rural area. People who live in the countryside, even the small children who go to school, have seen this kind of bird in the woods. They see that she stays there all day and keeps on boring the wood, drilling the wood with her beak in order to collect food. And whenever any child sees this kind of a bird, then the elders tell them this story. They say that the bird used to be a woman earlier. She was so greedy, and she was cursed by Saint Peter for her selfishness and greediness and hard heartedness, and so she got turned into a bird. So, what is the moral of this poem? What teaching do the little children get from their elders? Well, that they should not be greedy, they should not be selfish, but they must learn to be generous and to share things that they have in excess with others, not to be mean, miserly, or self centered, but to be to be kind hearted, to be generous with people in need. So, children, now let us look at the literary devices in the poem. The rhyme scheme. Let us go back to the first verse. The first verse over here. The first word is Northland, and the next one is few, then winter and through. So it is A, Northland is A, then few does not rhyme with Northland, so it's B, and then winter again doesn't rhyme, so it is C. And Northland and uh, few and through are rhyming. So you have A, B, C, B. So the rhyme scheme of the poem is A, B, C, B. Now, let us go through the figures of speech of this poem. First of all, away, away in the Northland is repetition because the word away and away, away and away are repeated. Now, where the hours of the day are few. Now, where the hours of the day are few, the second line is a hyperbole because the hours of the day in any country are the same. There's no country where they have lesser number of hours than the other countries, right? So hyperbole, it's an overstatement that the hours of the day are few. What the poetess means to say is that the daylight hours are few, but night is longer and the days are shorter. So the next line, and the nights are so long in winter. Again, it's a hyperbole, an overstatement that the nights are so long that they cannot sleep them through. They cannot sleep is litotes or litotes. The negation is used to convey a positive meaning that they are awake in the night. They are unable to sleep. Where they harness the swift reindeer to the sledges where it snow. So, where they harness the swift reindeer is alliteration because the sound of the consonant W, were and were, when, were, and here again, were, when it snows. Then, and the children look like bear cubs. Why do the children look like bear cubs here? So, that one is a simile because the word as and like, whenever they are used, it is a simile. Children looking like bear cubs. They really aren't, okay? So, in their funny, furry clothes. So, that one is an alliteration. Fur, fur. Here's the repetition of the consonant F and F. So, funny, furry is alliteration. Then they tell them a curious story. Uh, that is transferred epithet. The adjective curious has been transferred from people to a story. It is the people who are curious, not the story. I don't believe tis true. Tis means it is. It's a shortened form for it is. I don't believe it is true. That is litotes or litotes. The negation is used to convey a positive meaning that the tale may be false. And yet you may learn a lesson if I tell the tale to you. So here, uh, you may learn a lesson is alliteration because the sound of the consonant uh, T is repeated in the words tell and tale, and the consonant Y in yet and you, and the consonant L in learn and lesson. Then we go to the next line. So the next is once when the good Saint Peter lived in the world below. So this one is metonymy. The word below represents the earth. They are talking about the time when he was alive and walked about it preaching just as he did, you know. That also is metonymy. The word below represents that is the previous line. Metonymy represents the earth. And he came to the door of a cottage in traveling round the earth. Again, we have door stands for the cottage. So door indicates cottage and that is metonymy, part for the whole. And then he represents Jesus Christ. He came to the door. The next one is where a little woman, where a little woman was making cakes and baking them on the hearth. That is internal rhyme. The rhyming words making and baking here. Making and baking are used in the same sentence for poetic effect. And also the sound of the consonant where, was, and woman. All these three are alliteration. Then, and being faint with fasting, For the day was almost done. That is also again alliteration because faint and fasting. It's a repetition of the consonant sound. Faint and fasting. Fur and fur. And day and done. Day and done. So that also is a repetition. The word day was almost done. Day being done means day is almost over. So that is metonymy. Then he asked her from her store of cakes to give him a single one. Then the word he is repeated. He asked her to give him. So that's a repetition. The word her is repeated for her and her for poetic effect, and also unnecessary use of words single and one. Single and one. So single one is tautology because use of unnecessary words to say the same for the same idea. Then we go to the next verse. So she made a very little cake, but as it baking lay. Now she made, this is an inversion of the construction of the sentence for poetic effect. So it is anastrophe and also alliteration. That is the sound of B, baking but baking. Okay. So that is alliteration. Those sounds, consonant sounds, and burr are repeated. Then she looked at it and thought it seemed too large to give away. That also is alliteration because we have uh, thought and two. Ter is repeated. Then we go to the next line. Therefore, she needed another and still a smaller one. But it looked when she turned it over as large as the first had done. So here we have opposite words smaller and larger. Smaller and large in one verse. So this is antithesis and simile. Why is it a simile? Because there's a comparison between the first cake and the second cake. And the point of comparison is the size. Okay, as large as the first one. So as, whenever you have the words as and like used in comparison, it is a simile. Then the next one. Then she took a scrap of dough and rolled it flat. So this one is again rolled and rolled is repetition and baked it thin as a wafer. But she couldn't part with that. That too is a simile. There's a direct comparison between the size of the last cake and a wafer. So the point of comparison is the thin size. For she said, my cakes that seem too small when I eat of them myself are yet too large to give away. So here we have two like small and large. So we have antithesis, two opposite words used. Then repetition, the word two is repeated for two and again two. Here two and then again two. So that is for poetic effect, repetition is used. So she put them on the shelf. That is again so and she and shelf. That is alliteration. We have repetition of the consonants sir, sir, sir. Then good Saint Peter grew angry, for he was hungry and faint. Now here we have internal good Saint Peter grew angry, for he was hungry and faint. So the rhyming words angry and hungry, they are used, that is internal rhyme. And also we have alliteration. The sound of the consonant G is repeated in the words good and grew. Good, good and grew. The next one here, it is good and grew angry. Then, and surely such a woman was enough to provoke a saint. Surely such a woman, that is again we have alliteration. Alliteration has been repeated almost in every other line. The sound of the consonant S is repeated in the word surely. Surely, such, and saint. And also it's an epigram because it's a pointed saying. It's a pointed saying that such a woman could provoke a saint who's supposed to be like, why is a person called a saint? Because they are able to control their emotions. They are very, very calm. But she even managed, and such a woman was enough to provoke a saint is an epigram. It's a brief, pointed saying that is supposed to excite. So, and he said, you are far too selfish to dwell in a human form. That too is an epigram, appointed saying that the woman was so selfish, she was not worth being a human being. To have both food and shelter. The next one here, to have both food and shelter, and fire to keep you warm. Alliteration is the sound of the consonant F. Okay, food and fire. So now you shall build as the birds do, and you shall get your scanty food. So again we have alliteration. The sound of B is repeated. Build as birds. Then by boring and boring and boring. So here we have repetition. All day in the hard dry wood. So we have repetition. Then she went up through the chimney, never speaking a word. So here again it is lighter teas. The negation conveys a positive meaning that she went out of the chimney very silently. Then out of the top flew a woodpecker, for she was changed to a bird. So here we have the sound of the consonant F is repeated. Flew and out of the top flew, right? So F is repeated in flew and for. Flew and for. And it's also metonymy because woodpecker represents the old woman. Woodpecker flew, but actually it was the woman. Then she had a scarlet cap on her head. So here, scarlet cap stands, and that stands for the head stands for the little woman. But all the rest of her clothes were burned black as coal. Black as coal. So whenever you see the word as, it is a simile. Black, the color is like compared to coal, which is black in color. But the rest of her clothes were burned black as a coal in the flame. We go to the, so we finished with the figures of speech. Now let us go through the question answers of the poem. So here, the first one is, which country or countries do you think the Northland refers to? Well, the Northland is a region, as I began in the introduction. It is a region in the North Polar region which is very cold, and there are days which are very short, and the nights are extremely long. And that would include Greenland, northern part of Russia, Canada, and Norway. What did Saint Peter ask the old lady for? And what was the lady's reaction? Well, Saint Peter was faint and tired, feeling very weak as he had been fasting and preaching. He had been traveling all around. He approached a cottage and found a little woman baking cakes. So he asked her to give him one of the cakes. And the lady decided to bake him yet another small cake. But when it was ready, she thought it was too big to give away. And so she kept making yet another one. So every time she did that, she found she didn't have the heart to give it away. And so the greedy lady couldn't part with even the thinnest wafer that she had made, baked for Saint Peter. Said then, how, the question number three, how did he punish her? Well, Saint Peter found the little woman was very selfish and greedy when she couldn't even part with a thin wafer cake to him. He felt that she was not worth dwelling in the human form. It was what you say, uh, it was uh, not good to have such a human being. And so he cursed her and turned her into a woodpecker that builds a nest and gathers scanty, means very little food, by by drilling into the hard wood of the trees all day long. Then, how does the woodpecker get her food? Well, the woodpecker bores the dry hard wood of the trees with her beak, and she's able to gather little food. There may be insects inside the tree, so she has to work really hard to find food and survive. Do you think that the old lady would have been so ungenerous if she had known who Saint Peter really was? What would she have done then? Well, the lady might not have known that it was Saint Peter who had come along and asked for food at her doorstep. Had she known the true identity, then maybe she would have treated him kindly, given him her best cakes, and would have greedily expected some kind of a blessing from him in return. Now, is this a true story? Which part of the poem do you feel is the most important? The lady didn't know it was Saint Peter who had come along asking for food at her doorstep. Had she known his true identity? Uh, sorry. Uh, Question number six. Answer six is, the story, a legend, may not be true, but the most important part is where the selfish and greedy woman was cursed by Saint Peter, and so she was transformed into a woodpecker. The third stanza, where the poet wishes the reader may learn a lesson, is the most important part of the poem, as it teaches us not to be selfish, to refrain from being selfish like the woman, and in order to do generous and kind deeds. That is the most important part. What is a legend and why is this poem called a legend? Why is this poem called a legend? Well, a legend is a traditional story, but it may not be true. The title of the poem, A Legend of the Northland, suggests that it could have been a figment of someone's imagination. It could have been an imaginative local story. Even the poet who has penned it believes that it is not true. But why does she still go on with the poem? Because she wants the readers to learn a lesson from this. The part that a greedy woman is turned into a woodpecker by Saint Peter is a little far fetched. That means unbelievable. It may have been made up to teach people not to be selfish and to be kind and generous to those in need. Well, write a story of a legend of the Northland in about 10 sentences. Children, then you must read this poem all over again and then write it in your own words. You know the story now, so you can write it in your own words. Then we go to question number 2. The first one. Let's look at the words at the end of the second and fourth lines, that is, snows and clothes, true and you, below and no. We find that snows rhymes with clothes, true rhymes with you, and below rhymes with no. So you must read the poem and find many more such rhyming words. You can do that, right? Then go to the local library or talk to elder persons. I don't think you can do that in this situation. So you can talk to your grandparents and ask them, like we say, no, lok katha, like folk tales. So you can talk to your elders and grandparents, especially if you have them at home, or your neighbors, if there are elderly people, and ask them that what kind of folk tales belong to the Saurashtra region or Gujarat region. And then you can write about one of these in your notebook. I hope you have understood this poem well. Take time to read it because ballads are not so very common in the English textbook. So it you will always remember this story. So take time to read this poem over again and you will enjoy uh, reading it. Thank you and have a nice day.